Opening. Imagine a man standing before the United Nations, pointing a finger at the world's most powerful nations, and declaring emphatically, "To hell with your aid." The Western delegates stormed out of the room in anger, but the representatives from Africa and Asia, they gave a thunderous standing ovation. Before we move on to this fascinating story, don't forget to like this video if you enjoy in-depth historical content. Subscribe for more inspiring stories, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the latest videos from this channel. This is Sukarno, the Indonesian president who dared to challenge the United States, the Soviet Union, and the entire established world order all at once. A man so dangerous that the CIA labeled him the most significant threat to Western interests in Southeast Asia. Birth and childhood. June 6, 1901. Surabaya, East Java. A child was born who would change the world, but no one knew it at the time. His name was Kusno Sosrodoharjo, later known as Sukarno. On the night of his birth, his father, Raden Sokimi, had a vivid dream. He saw a giant golden eagle, the Garuda, descend from the sky, gently pick up the newborn, and carry him soaring high above all of Java. The village elders, upon hearing this dream, made a dire prophecy. This child would not live an ordinary life. He would either be a great leader who liberated his people, or he would bring them great destruction. Perhaps both. Little did they know that both prophecies would come true. School and college times. Even as a child, Sukarno displayed extraordinary abilities. By the age of 12, he could recite the entire Quran from memory. He was fluent in Dutch, Javanese, and Indonesian, and was studying Arabic and English. But most astonishingly, at just 14, he dared to defy his Dutch teacher and declare, "Why do we only study European history? What about our own kings and heroes?" The teacher was speechless. This was 1915, when such rebellion could result in severe punishment. But Sukarno didn't care. The fire of resistance was already burning within him. What made Sukarno unique was the extraordinary combination of his personality. By day, he studied advanced engineering mathematics and the principles of Dutch architecture. By night, he performed as a dalang, a shadow puppet master, telling ancient Javanese stories that subtly contained messages of resistance against colonialism. Fast forward to 1921. Sukarno was now studying civil engineering at the Technische Hogeschool in Bandung, now known as ITB. But while his classmates focused on building bridges and roads, Sukarno had a different kind of construction in mind, building a nation. The establishment of the PNI. In 1927, at the age of just 26, Sukarno founded the Indonesian National Party, PNI. His inaugural speech was a stirring one. "We are not asking for independence," he declared. "We demand it as our natural right." The Dutch colonial government immediately recognized the threat. Governor-General de Graaf wrote to The Hague, "This man, Sukarno, is different from other native leaders. He has a dangerous combination of Western education and Eastern charisma. He must be stopped." They were right to be concerned. Within 2 years, PNI membership exploded from 200 to over 10,000 active members across the archipelago. Even more remarkable, Sukarno was not just building a political party. He was building a national consciousness. Before Sukarno, the concept of Indonesia barely existed. There were Java, Sumatra, Sulawesi, Bali, separate islands with distinct cultures. Sukarno created a vision that united all these differences under one identity: Indonesia. Arrest and trial. December 29, 1929. The day that changed everything. Dutch police surrounded Sukarno's house in Bandung at dawn. He was arrested on charges of sedition and inciting rebellion. But as they dragged him away in chains, Sukarno smiled. Why? Because he knew this moment would make him immortal. The trial became the most watched legal event in the history of colonial Indonesia. For 4 hours, Sukarno delivered what became known as Indonesia Accuses. This was not just a legal defense. It was a declaration of war on colonialism itself. Listen to these powerful words, "Your Honor, we do not hate the Dutch. We hate the colonial system that turns good people into oppressors and free people into slaves. We sue colonialism for stealing not only our wealth, but our dignity, our culture, our souls. Exile. The courtroom erupted. Even some Dutch officials wiped away tears. The judge, visibly shaken, sentenced Sukarno to 4 years in prison. But everyone knew who truly won the day. Here's the incredible part. The Dutch thought imprisoning Sukarno would end his influence. Instead, it created a martyr. Copies of Indonesia Accuses were smuggled out of the prison and circulated throughout the archipelago. After prison, the Dutch exiled Sukarno to End, Flores, and then to Bengkulu, Sumatra. 8 years of exile in a remote location, far from civilization. Most politicians would have crumbled under these conditions. But Sukarno, he used this time to grow stronger. In End, he deepened his understanding of Eastern philosophy and mysticism. In Bengkulu, he formulated the 5 principles that would become Pancasila, the philosophical foundation of Indonesia. Proclamation of Independence. August 17, 1945, 10 a.m. Jalan Pegangsaan Timur 56, Jakarta. A moment that changed world history forever. But here's the shocking truth. Sukarno almost wasn't the one who proclaimed Indonesia's independence. Let me tell you what really happened in those crucial 48 hours that no one ever talks about. August 15th, Japan surrendered to the Allies. Indonesia was in chaos. August 16th, 2 a.m. A group of young radical freedom fighters kidnapped Sukarno and Hatta, taking them to Rengasdengklok. August 17th, dawn, Sukarno sat in his study, writing the text of the proclamation by hand. Only 67 words in Indonesian. 10 a.m., in front of his modest home, Sukarno read out the 67 words. That created the world's 4th most populous nation. War of Independence. But the proclamation was only the beginning. What followed was one of the most extraordinary wars of independence in human history. A new nation, with no standing army, no heavy weapons, fought against the combined might of the Dutch, supported by the British and Americans. The odds, 100 to 1 against Indonesia. But Sukarno had something more powerful than guns, the ability to inspire the people. November 10, 1945, the Battle of Surabaya. For 3 weeks, Indonesian fighters, many still teenagers armed with sharpened bamboo spears, held off the British Army. Bandung Conference, December 27, 1949, Indonesia finally became fully independent. But Sukarno had a bigger vision, to liberate the entire colonized world. April 18th to 24th, 1955, the Asia-Africa Conference in Bandung. 29 countries gathered. This had never happened in history. Colonized. Countries united without Western supervision. Guest list: Nehru, Nasser, Zhou Enlai, Ho Chi Minh, and Nkrumah. Sukarno's legendary speech, "There is a third way, the way of freedom, dignity, and non-alignment." From Bandung emerged the non-aligned movement with 120 countries. The peak of power. 1960 Sukarno speaks at the UN for 2.5 hours, the longest in history. Time magazine. Sukarno, the most dangerous man in Asia. By 1963, he controlled a population of 100 million, becoming one of the most powerful men on earth. But absolute power corrupts. 1964, Indonesia withdraws from the UN. To hell with the UN. Sukarno shouted in front of 1 million people. The fall of 1965 Sukarno reached his peak and the beginning of his downfall. He relied on the PKI, creating a deadly triangle, Sukarno TNI PKI. September 30th, 1965, G30S PKI. 6 generals killed. Suharto took over. March 11th, 1966, Supersma. Sukarno relinquished power. The man who challenged the world became a prisoner in his own palace. Legacy. June 21, 1970, Sukarno died alone. But his legacy is eternal. Pancasila. Indonesian unity, the non-aligned movement. 54 years later, Indonesia is the largest Muslim democracy. 50 independent countries use his model. Sukarno proved, dignity must be fought for, freedom must be declared. One man with absolute conviction can shake the world. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to honor Bung Karno's legacy.